In the heart of Lagos, where the streets buzzed with life and luxury cars zipped through traffic, lived a man named Chuka. At 45, Chuka was everything a man could dream of: handsome, charming, and above all, immensely wealthy. His mansion stood tall in Ikoyi, surrounded by lush gardens and guarded by a fleet of security personnel. He owned successful businesses across the nation, and his bank account was bursting with wealth that could last several lifetimes. Yet, despite all his riches, Chuka was unhappy. Every woman he met seemed to be more interested in his wealth than in him. Lavish gifts, expensive dinners, and extravagant vacations never seemed to impress them enough to care about the man behind the money. One evening, as Chuka sat in his study, sipping on a glass of aged whiskey, he sighed deeply. "What is it about me that only attracts gold diggers?" he muttered to himself. He had tried everything: dating apps, social clubs, even introductions from friends, but the result was always the same. His closest friend, Uche, who had known him since childhood, had once said,
"Chuka, you're too generous. These women see you as a ticket to a life of luxury. If you want genuine love, you must strip away the wealth and see who stays."
These words had haunted Chuka for weeks until he made a decision that would change his life forever. Determined to find someone who would love him for who he truly was, Chuka devised a plan. He would travel to a remote, undeveloped village where no one knew him or his wealth. There, he would live as a common man, taking up the humble job of a salesboy in a small shop. He hoped that in such a place, far from the glitz and glamour of Lagos, he might find someone who would see beyond his material possessions. Chuka packed only the essentials: some plain clothes, a little cash, and a few personal items. He instructed his manager to handle his businesses in his absence and told no one where he was going, not even Uche. He wanted this journey to be as authentic as possible. After a long drive through bumpy roads and dense forests, Chuka arrived in a small, remote village named Umweki. It was a place where time seemed to have stood still: mud huts with thatched roofs, narrow dirt paths, and people who live simple lives, unburdened by the complexities of the modern world. Chuka found lodging in a modest hut and quickly secured a job at the village's only general store, run by an elderly man named Baba. Baba was a kind-hearted man who had lost his wife years ago and had no children. He welcomed Chuka with open arms, grateful for the help in his store.
"Thank you, my son,"
Baba said as Chuka helped him arrange the goods on the dusty shelves.
"I've been struggling to keep this place running on my own. You are a godsend."
Chuka smiled, feeling a sense of satisfaction he hadn't felt in years.
"It's my pleasure, Papa. I'm happy to help."
Days turned into weeks, and Chuka began to settle into his new life. He was no longer the wealthy businessman from Lagos, but a simple salesboy, earning just enough to get by. The villagers, unaware of his true identity, treated him like one of their own. However, finding love was not as easy as he had hoped. Though he met several women, most of them were either uninterested or turned out to be just as materialistic as the city women, only with different expectations. They wanted him to work harder, bring more goods to the shop, or even send money to their families in neighboring villages. One day, a young woman named Eada walked into the store. She was beautiful, with ebony skin, bright eyes, and a warm smile that could melt the coldest heart. Chuka's heart skipped a beat as he watched her browse the shelves. He approached her with a friendly smile.
"Good afternoon."
He greeted her, trying to sound casual.
How can I help you today?
Eada looked up at him and smiled. Good afternoon. I'm just looking for some provisions. As they chatted, Chuka couldn't help but feel drawn to her. There was something different about Ada. She was kind, genuine, and seemed uninterested in the material things that had plagued his past relationships. Over the next few weeks, Chuka and Eada grew closer. They would talk for hours, sharing stories about their lives and dreams. Eada told him about her late parents, her struggle to make ends meet, and her desire to one day leave the village and see the world. Chuka found himself falling for her, but he was hesitant to reveal his true identity. He feared that she, too, might be disappointed when she discovered he was not just a simple salesboy. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the village was bathed in a warm orange glow, Chuka and Eada sat outside the store, enjoying the cool breeze. Chuka decided it was time to come clean.
There's something I need to tell you,
he began, his voice heavy with emotion. Eada turned to him, her eyes filled with curiosity. What is it, Chuka? You sound serious. Chuka took a deep breath and began to tell her the truth. He told her about his life in Lagos, his wealth, and his decision to come to the village in search of genuine love. For a moment, Eada was silent, her expression unreadable. Chuka's heart raced as he awaited her reaction. Finally, she spoke. Chuka, I don't care about your money or your status, she said softly. I care about the man I've come to know, the kind, caring, and humble man who has been by my side these past weeks. Wealth can disappear in an instant, but true love and companionship last forever. Chuka felt a wave of relief wash over him. He reached out and took her hand, his heart swelling with gratitude.
Thank you, Ada. You don't know how much this means to me.
But Eada wasn't finished. However, she continued, you must understand that love isn't just about what you want. It's about being honest, and I'm glad you finally told me the truth. If we are to have a future together, it must be built on trust and understanding. Chuka nodded, realizing the truth in her words.
You're right. I promise to be honest with you from now on.
After several more weeks in the village, Chuka and Eada decided it was time to return to Lagos together. Chuka had made up his mind. Ada was the woman he had been searching for, the one who loved him for who he truly was, not for his wealth. When they arrived in Lagos, Eada was in awe of the city's size and vibrancy. Chuka introduced her to his world, showing her the mansion, his businesses, and the life he had kept hidden from her. Yet, despite the luxury surrounding her, Eada remained grounded, just as she had been in the village. Chuka's friends and family were shocked when they met Eada. Many had expected him to bring home a glamorous city woman, but here was a simple village girl who had captured his heart. Some were skeptical, but others, like Uche, could see that Chuka had finally found the happiness he had been searching for. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of Chuka's mansion, looking out over the city lights, Chuka turned to Eada with a smile.
I'm glad I took that journey to Umueki. I found not only love but also myself.
Eada smiled back, resting her head on his shoulder. And I'm glad you found me. A few months after returning to Lagos, Chuka knew he wanted to spend the rest of his life with Eada. He planned a surprise proposal that would be both simple and meaningful, reflecting the journey they had shared. One evening, he took her to a quiet spot by the beach, away from the bustling city. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the ocean waves. Chuka led Eada to a small table set up with a simple dinner of her favorite dishes. As they ate, they reminisced about their time in the village, laughing and sharing stories. Chuka felt a deep sense of contentment that he had never experienced before. He knew this was the right moment. After dinner, as the stars began to twinkle in the sky, Chuka got down on one knee and pulled out a small velvet box. Ada gasped, her hands covering her mouth in surprise. Chuka began, his voice filled with emotion.
From the moment I met you, I knew you were special. You've shown me what true love is, a love that isn't based on wealth or status, but on trust, understanding, and companionship. Will you marry me and make me the happiest man alive?
Tears welled up in Eada's eyes as she nodded, unable to speak. She extended her hand, and Chuka slipped the ring onto her finger. They embraced, their hearts full of joy and love. As news of their engagement spread, Chuka and Eada faced both support and skepticism from those around them. Some couldn't understand how a wealthy man like Chuka could fall for a simple village girl. But Chuka didn't let the doubts of others affect him. He had learned that true love wasn't about appearances or material possessions, it was about connection, trust, and mutual respect. Chuka and Eada eventually got married in a simple yet beautiful ceremony, attended by close friends and family. They chose to keep the wedding low-key, avoiding the grandeur that Chuka's wealth could have.